played like a normal opening, and here things started to get a little dicey. So here I take this pawn, now you can't take my knight because of this pin. So here is where I made one critical error. I played something like g5, and here I'm like, oh yeah, I can win a pawn. But the thing is, he has compensation. He has very active pieces, and I could lose very quickly if I'm not careful. So here, so in this position, I could play something more safe and not allow him to have counterplay. So I could play something like knight f8. I could also play something like king h8, because I know he's going to play something like bishop h7 check, maybe, and he could have some sort of checkmate ideas. So even though you have an advantage, you want to consolidate your advantage and make sure that your opponent doesn't have any counterplay. So here, things got really dicey, and he started attacking me, like threatening queen g6, and now I played e5. And here I accidentally hung a piece because bishop takes d7, which happened in the game. Rook takes d7, and now he has bishop takes d5. And now my queen is a little overloaded trying to protect everything. So I tried to get compensation for the piece that I lost. So I try to keep my active bishop, and even though my position has a lot of holes in it, we'll see what happens. So here he tried to trade queens, and I said, I don't want to trade queens because I know I might lose this endgame. So his plan is to force me to trade queens and simplify, because that's what you should do when you have the advantage. And so he wants to trade as many pieces as possible, and I don't want to trade, so I'm moving my pieces away. But eventually he forces the trade of queens. So we trade, and now his knight is a little on the edge here, so I feel like I have maybe a little compensation here. So, okay, so when you're losing, the important thing is to have active pieces, because, as we mentioned before, compensation, but also it's to think of a plan that will maybe save you the game. So here my plan is to trade off the pawns, trade off these queenside pawns, but also maybe trade the rooks off, because if it's just the pawns and the minor pieces, I think maybe I can hold this position. So that's my plan, and he should be aware of that. So here, I'm trying to trade off the pieces. So he's activating his knight, I'm activating my king, and now he comes and attacks me. So here, I'm happy to continue my plan of trading off the pawns, and now I'm going after the a pawn. I want to go bishop d7, and maybe have this active rook be difficult for him to do much in this position. So I play king f5, defending my pawn, and he goes a5. So I'm sort of happy to trade, but first I'm going to throw in this in-between move to have some more activity with my pieces. So I'm pretty happy to trade the rooks here, because we're going towards that position I was talking about with just the minor pieces and the pawns. And now, here, can anybody suggest a move for black? Yes, bishop c6, because we want to keep our active pieces, and we need compensation for our two pawns for the piece. So white can't really take the bishop, and we're centralizing the bishop, making him more annoying, maybe like bishop f3. So here I put my bishop in the center, he chases me. I try to activate my rook because it's not really doing anything on the a file. And now I come around, and now his knight went from all the way on h5 to this side of the board, and he's a little trapped. So he goes to b7, and here I attack his rook, and now activating our pieces. So now black suddenly has turned the game around, because now there are all sorts of threats, like with these checks, and maybe pushing these pawns, and now white is a little discoordinated with even though he has the piece for the 2 pawns. So he goes f3. And now, here white should probably consolidate and try to maybe capture this pawn, but also chase my king away because he needs more room for his king to run away from these checks. So he goes knight d8. A little more active would probably be something like knight c5. So he stayed a little towards the edge of the board. And here, now I have a few tactics. So now I have, let's see, after he moves here, his bishop is now in a lot of trouble because I have bishop g2, h4, h5. I have maybe rook g2, g4, rook h2, king g3. I don't know if anybody's following this, but I have rook h3 after that. So if, let's say it's like this, and I have this. And now white is in a little bit of trouble, so I have like these maneuvers. But he has bishop c1, and I go rook c2, and something that he missed is that if he goes bishop e3, now his pieces are sort of discoordinated, so I can play something like rook c3. And if he moves bishop, like bishop d4, attacking my rook, I do have like a discover check that I can make, like bishop g4 or bishop e2, so I can chase the rook away, or the bishop away, and then proceed with these discover checks. So here, now he's realizing that he can't really move this rook away because he might get checkmated with bishop g2, or bishop f1. Oops. Bishop f1. King g3. And then I have this discover check now, and now I can eat all his pieces. So he takes, and this is the end of the game, pretty much. So he's trying to get his pieces back in play, but he's a little too slow now. So even though all the way back here, let's see. Things looked a little dicey for me. Like my king was very exposed. He has up material. Things, as I mentioned before, are very slow in chess. So even if you make mistakes, you can most of the time almost always recover from those mistakes as long as you have active pieces and you're aware of what your opponent is doing. So yeah, just wanted to show you guys anything else.